Blender just got a whole lot easier. I'll walk you through how I made this scene, no modeling skills required. My name's Rexo, professional concept artist and illustrator for video games, and an art instructor. I've been teaching Photoshop, Krita, and Blender for multiple students now, and I'd like to share what I've taught with you. I don't intend this to be like your first video into Blender, but basically you need some instruction to get you started. And if you're having trouble moving and navigating through like a 3D space, just go over here. Everything that's related to movement can be just done over here, right? So clicking this will rotate the view. Clicking this and dragging will zoom in and out. This will pan the camera. This will get you to the camera if you have one in your scene. And this one will change it to orthographic or perspective view. So here you can rotate it. Then clicking this will zoom in and out. And this one will make you pan the camera. And just keep in mind that the tools that you can use are already here. So say I want to have a cube and I want to move it. Usually you only have this one, the tweak or the select box. And I do that by clicking and holding. So this will show up. So I want the select box. And if I want to move this, I select it, go over here to move, and this gizmo will appear. So if I select this, it will move it to the axis. If I also select this, it will move in 2 axes instead of just one. And same thing goes for scale. I can make this stretch in and out. And I also make it rotate and specific axis or just one. So let's start with making something simple, such as a kitchen scene or some sort of an interior that's inside the house, which is really useful for creating scenes, that has lots of perspective, furniture, countertops, desks, things like that. That needs to be in the proper perspective. So we're gonna use Blender for that. So first off, we need to click this one in this section, which is add cube. And what's that going to do is we can sort of draw primitive objects relatively easily, and you don't need to do any sort of modeling to achieve what you're going for. So we're gonna start with this. So select that. Then you'll see your cursor has some sort of grid going around. And now if you click and drag, you can create these objects without any sort of modeling. If you were to do this by hand, you would need to edit it, stretch it around. But now you don't really need to do that. So we're gonna stick with this one since it's much easier for us to handle. We're gonna add the floor last, since if we add the floor now, it's gonna block that grid view, which is really handy when you're doing all these like things in perspective, right? So for now, we're just gonna add a cube that has a 2-meter height or like a 1.8 meter height, just so we can have like a human scale to begin with. So we're gonna add that. Press Shift A and go to cube, and you'll notice you'll have this one over here. Let's make that 1.8, something like that. Then move it up over here so that it matches to the ground. And now press S and Shift Z, or you can just go over here to scale and click this one, make it a bit skinnier. So S and Shift Z will only constrain it to X and Y axis. So there's like our human person. So think of it as this is how a tall person would look like, right? So that's like our base person height, so that we can base off our like models around that height. So if we're making a countertop, it's around waist height. If we're making like a desk, somewhere around there. If we're making a chair, somewhere around knee or thigh height. So stuff like that. Now that we have that, I think we're gonna use add cube as some sort of L countertop. Okay. But it's important for us to be in this kind of mode where we can see like all three sides, because if you do your drawing over here, you can't really see the height that you're making. So it's important that we draw in this kind of view so that we can like gauge on how tall some objects are. Okay. So for a countertop, probably too high, maybe something like this. Yeah, I think that's okay for countertop. We can also scale it. So if you can go here and scale it over here, pressing make it thinner. But for me, I can just I know all the shortcuts for it. It's S, and pressing the axis will lock it to that specific axis. So Z for the Z axis, X for the X axis, and Y for the Y. So now that we have that, let's move it closer to our base character. Let's also add another one over here. Now, so instead of manually going over there and like kind of guesstimating how high it would be, we can just hold control and hover over there, and it will automatically snap to that specific edge, so we don't have to guess. Now we have a L countertop. We can add another one. I guess this could be a refrigerator. So notice, since we're 2D artists and we're only using this as some sort of base, gray boxes to essentially help us with placing the objects at the right places. We don't need to have really detailed geometry to get the benefits of using 3D. So for now, we can just use cubes, primitives, cylinders, cones, spheres to basically get the most out of using Blender. So now we're gonna use this same tool to create some sort of refrigerator. So we can use this one, just draw over here. So that's kind of a big jump. So we have our refrigerator here. We can add like some sort of splitter that separates like the freezer from the normal refrigerator, and we can add a big handle over here. Nope, that's too big. There. No. Now we're gonna add the walls. So over here, let's just drag a wall over there, make it a bit tall. If it's not tall enough, you can always scale it up. Pressing S and pressing Z will scale it up and make it higher. We're gonna do the same thing over here. Now we're gonna add some cabinets. We're gonna add some cabinets over here, this area. So we can just snap it over here so that our cabinets are kind of, you need to reach it up. We're gonna add a window. So our window, we're gonna kind of hack it in a way. So this isn't really what you're supposed to do for windows, in 3D modeling, but it's generally going to help you in finding out the perspective lines for it. So for our window, a really quick way of doing it is just drawing out your window, something like this, making it like really, really thin. So something like this, make it thinner. Then we're gonna add the modifier. So if you go here on the lower right corner and click the wrench icon, what will happen is there's a drop down menu here, and you can go search for wireframe. And what that will do is add some sort of geometry around the edges of our cube. So there's that, and we can add a bit of thickness. Okay. But we don't want to replace the original. We still want to keep our cube. So if you can see, like, it basically removed the cube, or remove the original geometry and just added the wireframe around it. But you can just check this box over here, and basically that will keep the original cube and just add the wireframe around it. Okay. Then this is our first introduction to modeling. So we haven't really modeled anything ever since I started this blend file. So next up is we're gonna add some loop cuts. Real quick, what scene do you wish to do in Blender someday? Let me know down in the comments. This over here, need to go from object mode to edit mode. So you're gonna be in this sort of view here. So you're like only allowed to edit things inside of the object that you're editing, right? But to see like the changes that you're making, you have to go over here, go to wireframe and like click this box over here, and what that will do is you can see the result as you edit the geometry. So that's important because what we're going to do is add a loop cut. So here, this is the tool for loop cuts, and you can add a loop cut like this. So we're gonna make it like 3 window panes and like make them like a sliding window, with a bar horizontally. So we're gonna add this one. Yep. And you can see you have this options here, and basically we just want this to be 2, and there's that. You can also press Ctrl R. That will do the same thing, but if you scroll up and down your mouse wheel, it will change the number of loop cuts. So I personally like doing it this way, but you can of course do it this way and manually edit over here. Also, if you're using this tool and you add the loop cut, if you drag it, you can change the position of that. You're not limited to the position that's highlighted. So now we have our windows. You can go back to object mode, or pressing tab will get you in and out of object mode and edit mode. So we have our window here. Then we want our stove. Say we want our stove, I don't know, somewhere here, right? This is going to be our stove. So for the most part, we've been just using cubes. So add cube to draw out our geometry, but we're not limited to cubes. We can also use other objects over here. So say we want a cylinder, and here you can see you can kind of draw out plates. Also pressing shift while you drag it around, kind of like Photoshop, will constrain it to a fixed proportion, and that way you can make perfect circles, something like that. So these could be plates, or this could be a cup. So it's like making it easier for you to place specific props as well. But we're gonna add pots and plates later. We're gonna add a stovetop. To make the stovetop, we can use kind of like this one over here. We can reduce the vertices. You can also change it over here. All right, so we can make this 5 or 6. Let's actually make it 6. What that will do is basically, instead of drawing a cylinder, we're gonna add a hexagon. So a hexagon is a relatively common thing, relatively common shape for stovetop, right? Or maybe an octagon. So there's that. Make it kind of tiny. Then we can add the same thing, add the wireframe modifier, and we kind of have this some sort of burner looking thing. So we're just gonna scale it up and duplicate it. So to duplicate something, you need to press Shift D, and you'll be in this mode where you can put it wherever you want. So you can press Z, and that will lock it to the X-axis. Press X, press Y. In this case, we want X. You can also click this and shift click this. So you select both of them, press Shift D again, and press we want Y. So here, gonna move it over here. So now we kind of got like stovetop with 4 burners, and then we can add another cylinder over here for like the controls, right? Or you can just duplicate it and do the same thing. So what I'm doing is I'm duplicating it, right? Then to move it again, I press G, hold my mouse button, and that will snap it to the specific point, or to the specific axis that I want. So if I hold middle mouse button and hover over this green line, it's gonna lock it to that axis. Now we can add some sort of separator for these two. So we can add another cube, just so we can separate the stovetop. Add another thing over there. And then we can add, say, our pots and pans. So we can add a big pot over here. For the last one, we're just gonna add a bunch of objects over here. This could be, say, a cereal box. This could be like a grocery paper bags. You can also rotate it, so you can go over here, rotate it slightly to make it slightly more natural, not just specifically aligned to one axis. You can make it a bit more organic, a bit more messy. We can add I guess a microwave over here, add a handle for that, and add another, like, one of those knobs over here. So we have that. We can also have small plate over here. You can also add spheres. So say there's like food over here. I'm pressing shift, that's why it's snapping to that, so it's making a perfect circle. So there's that. You can just add as many as you want. You can also add like a handle to one of these pots, something like that. It's not aligned right. It's not just one pot. You can also add the handles that are on each side. So yeah, so there's lots of things that you can do just by just drawing out these objects. Now the last thing that I want to do is, since this is a cabinet, right? Say I want to make this cabinet like 3 cabinets. So what I can do is go over to wireframe. What we basically did with the window. Go to wireframe, just the thickness. Do not check replace original, and click this thing over here. And when I go to edit mode, I'm gonna add a loop cut like that. And when I go back, I'm gonna add some knobs over here. Alright, so now we have a relatively cool looking kitchen that you can easily draw on top of, and like make this into a more detailed sketch, into a more detailed drawing. And we did that without necessarily getting into deeper knowledge of modeling, which is, I think, is the beauty of Blender for 2D artists. So you can just pick your pick the view that you like. Say I want it to be here. We also forgot to add the floor, but you can skip it and not add it, since there's also some grid lines here which might help you in your drawing. But yeah, if you want to add the floor, you can just basically do this. Instead of bringing it up, we're gonna bring it down. So there's our floor. So now you can just pick your view. You can also press shift and tilde key. Tilde key is the one below escape key. So when you do that, you go into this like first person mode, and WASD keys will control the camera as if you were flying in the air. So say I want to have this kind of view, right? Okay, and I'm going to add another person over here. So say like I want to make this scene about like 2 people talking, and I want them to have generally have the same height. The only thing that's missing is just screenshotting this. So you can just drag this out to have more of your view. If it completely disappeared, you can just bring it out by going to this like arrow over here. It's tiny, not sure if you can see that, but yeah. Then you can just screenshot this, put it over to Photoshop or the painting program that you use. Then draw some lines over it. Say I want to have like some clouds over here, a tree over here. Then I want to say some like there's some kids toys over here. There's some spider webs, and I can draw out the bear on the cereal box. I can add some smoke over here. In general, I can just trace this and make this as polished as I can. since I'm now relying on my 2D art skills rather than my 3D art skills. So if you're really struggling with perspective, this is a really great tool to basically aid you in making more complicated scenes where your skill of perspective is holding you back in some way. You can also get like a view, something like this, where kind of like a fly on the wall where you're looking at this layout. This is also another reason why Blender is so good for concept art, is because you can create these like simple scenes and everyday objects and take a view of it, like a bird's eye view of it, and that could be a layout in like some sort of room where the character is supposed to be, and you basically did that, you know, just by using primitives, and now you can just add things on top of it, you know, add more design to it, and basically take it to the next level. If you followed this tutorial and you made something with it, don't be shy to tag me in your works. I would love to see them, and my socials are down below. So that's it for today's video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and leave your thoughts down here in the comment section. And thanks for watching.